first of all, I couldn't believe that I had no idea. He hid it so well. And so that was kind of scary. And then I just remember this, I'll never forget it. This knife, it literally felt like a knife was stabbing me in the stomach and just twisting because I knew something was coming. And because he had hidden his addiction so well, I was like, there's something else coming and it's big.
Has your marriage been shattered by sexual betrayal and you're wondering what to do now? Then you're in the right place. I'm Johnny.
I'm Emily. We've been where you are, and we know there is hope for your marriage through Christ Jesus.
As marriage recovery coaches, we help you find freedom and healing after porn-fueled infidelity and betrayal trauma.
Are you ready for hope-filled tomorrows? Then let's do this.
Marriages redeemed.
Hearts renewed. Hello, and welcome back to Beyond Broken Vows podcast.
We are your hosts, Johnny and Emily Spiegelmeyer, and we are glad you are here. It's summertime, and that means we are in our Summer Stories of Hope series, where each week, wonderful guests from our listening family open up and share their raw, unfiltered stories of navigating porn-fueled infidelity, framed around 4 basic questions. What was your marriage like before discovery? How did discovery occur? What is your marriage like now in the messy middle? And what is God teaching you while on this journey of healing and recovery?
Telling our stories is an important part of our personal and marital recovery. When we tell our story, we come out of isolation, which helps to lift our shame, and it helps those who are hearing our story know that they are not alone and that there is hope for their journey to healing and freedom.
Each story you hear over the summer months are not stories of perfect recovery.
Nor are any of these stories finished.
However, our heart is that they will inspire hope for whatever season of pain you are in and give you courage to press on through the challenges of recovery.
Yes, and helping you know that you are truly not alone, because God is always with you. And if you're looking for more connection with others who are on a similar journey, we have online groups for men and women.
Stone Rollers is our Christ-centered 12-step men's recovery group that meets virtually every Tuesday evening. In Stone Rollers, you will find men from all different walks of life who have chosen to directly address their struggle with addiction and sexual integrity issues.
And Unseen Beauty is our wives' care group, and we meet virtually on Monday evenings. Unseen Beauty is a sacred space for Christian women navigating the painful journey of sexual betrayal with Jesus as our comfort and guide.
Friends, we invite you to work with us to help you navigate the difficult nuances of your broken marriage. Our coaching program will help you discover God's plan for you and your spouse to experience healing and restoration, resulting in a better marriage than you even imagined possible. So head on over to coaching.beyondbrokenvows.com. That's coaching.beyondbrokenvows.com.
Yes, but now let's get ready to hear another story in our Summer Stories of Hope series. We hope you enjoy today's story.
Jacob and Leah, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really looking forward to hearing your story, and we're just going to ask you a few questions, and we're going to get right into it because we're really excited to hear more from you than from us.
Yeah, so thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excited.
Super excited to be here.
All right, so Leah, let's start with you. I want you to tell us how you two first met and fell in love.
We met at homeschool ski lessons when we were both 8.
Wow.
My first memory of him is skiing down, like we just got off the chairlift, and then I just saw this guy, and I can picture it in my mind, a gray jacket with like orange camo down the arms and speeding by me, and just this cool guy. And then from there, we grew up homeschooled together, and we kind of just were always friends, best friends. We hung out every week, multiple times a week. I don't know, we were just always best friends. So that's the beautiful part of it, is being able to grow up together, quite literally, and just know all versions of each other. And went to youth group together, separate churches just because families went different places, but eventually coming to the same church and same youth group and same friend group for till the end of high school, and then got married.
And how long have you been married now?
We just last week celebrated 10 years, which is wild.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful. 10 years. That's great.
And tell us a little bit about your family. What year did you get married?
We got married in 2016, year after high school. and then got pregnant, 3 months after we got married, I believe. So I had a baby rather quickly, which is a whole other ball game when, trying to learn each other and what life looks like together, and then throw a baby in there. And it was fun, and I don't regret it at all. But it definitely was a whole new year. It was change of life. So
Right.
yeah, lots of different challenges, lots of different changes, and then still trying to figure out each other. So yeah, that was an interesting year.
So what was a day in the life of Jacob and Leah like during those first years of marriage?
Throughout our first year, he was working a normal 9 to 5, I think, and then I was working at the hospital as a CNA evening shift. We were pretty normal, I think. We didn't have any crazy things go
See
on.
each other in the morning a little bit and then
Yeah.
have dinner and hang out for the rest of the afternoon
Yeah.
most nights.
We lived with his parents in their apartment, so we saw them a lot.
They had a little attached apartment to their house that was able to save us some money. It was a little bit tight after we had our first eat in. My parents were just always knocking on the door, trying to get in and say hi and help out as best they could.
So add that to newlywed life too. That was fun. We're very thankful for their help and stuff. But 6 months, Eden was 6 months, and we moved out, found a great apartment, and lived there for 3 years, I think. And then we ended up having our second child there as well, because our first two are only 16 months apart. 2.5 years married and already had 2 kids. So we just really dove headfirst.
I can see that. I know coming into marriage and then having children so quickly, you guys dated for a period of time, but now children are in the mix and your focus has to change from that. So what was your relationship like in those years?
It was pretty rocky for sure. Having kids was a huge, it wasn't a surprise to me. Like we planned our kids, not necessarily like down to the exact season, but we were like, all right, we want to have
No, down to the exact season.
we want to have this, we wanted to have kids early so we can keep up with them and play with them and do all these things with them, not, sitting on the sidelines. So the first couple of years were definitely really rocky. It was a huge change for me.
You didn't grow up
with
kids.
I didn't grow up around kids. I wasn't close to any cousins or anything like that. So, it was really just me and my siblings, and
you're the youngest.
And I was the youngest, so I didn't have a lot of like baby experience. So having kids was this huge change of environment, change of scenery for me. I think that was just a really, really hard point in our marriage for the first several years.
Yeah. And then on my side, I worked in a daycare for 8 years, and all I ever wanted to do was be a mom. So I was very ready to have kids, and I was so very excited. But I remember so well the feelings of if, he would either come home late or go out or something. I remember lots of nights just being like, is this it? Is this the joy that I've been waiting for my whole life? And I remember it being a little depressing, just not quite realizing the full potential that it could be. But, what I thought it would be was not what I pictured.
Thinking it was going to be like that forever.
Yeah, thinking that was it. This is the rest of my life. Because at that point, our relationship was pretty, it wasn't bad. It was just not great. It wasn't wonderful. We disagreed on a lot, and we're just still trying to find our grounding and our relationship and, marriage, and then adding our faith in there as well, where I felt like I was trying to move forward and he was kind of backsliding a little bit. And so there was all that. And yeah, those first few years were good memories, but I don't look back on them fondly.
Right.
Yeah.
So with a lot of excitement and optimism going into marriage after dating for a period of time, the everyday life of marriage and having kids and trying to work that out, I really like that you expressed you were thinking that idea, is this it? Is this the way my marriage is going to be for the rest of my life? Jake, tell us what was going on in your marriage underneath the surface before your infidelity became known to Leah.
Yeah. It was a lot of just kind of pent up, like built up tension. And with all of my family's background with not really talking about emotions or, below the surface level was an unheard of conversation in my family. So there was a lot of things that were going on underneath the surface that I had no idea that I could even bring up to Leah. Like that was just not even an option, in the first several years of our marriage. And so that was really difficult. I was, I needed things from Leah, but I'd never told her I needed these things because I didn't think I could tell her these things. And I just thought she would magically know that I wanted more touch or I wanted more quality time or anything along those lines. I wanted to have more time with her. And I remember feeling a lot of like not being priority. The marriage was absolutely not the priority of our lives. I definitely felt like I got the last bit of Leah and she got the last bit of me, like at the end of the day or the end of the week or anything. We just kind of gave each other the scraps. She was crazy busy with the kids and learning to be a new mom and a new wife. And I was, learning to be a new dad and a new husband and trying to provide for the family at a young age. And it was just a lot of just completely unspoken desires. And so it had a lot of built up tension. So a lot of conversations weren't built on a strong foundation. They were just really wobbly. They could get into a pretty negative space really quickly.
Yeah.
In the
A lot of resentment to each other.
Yeah.
A lot of frustration and anger at each other, but not being willing to open up and talk about it. I feel like I would try to talk about it, but I didn't quite have the right words to say. And then from your side, there was probably just a lot of quiet, shut down, walk out type of things.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yes. So now that you guys are in this place where you're really not connected, I like your description. You are getting the last bit of each other and you were both feeling that. So Jake, let's go one level deeper. So now that you're feeling you're just not getting all of Leah and the marriage really kind of isn't what you think it was supposed to be, how did that start getting you to drift away or, get off track with your own personal desires?
Yeah. It was a really easy transition for me with the background in pornography addiction that I had growing up. And it was just an easy transition. I knew a lot of people and I had a lot of friends going through high school. So it was really easy to rekindle conversations and relationships. So whenever Leah and I had a rough time or rough conversation, or I didn't get what I thought I needed to get from Leah or wanted to get from Leah, I would search that out through other venues, other relationships. Yeah, it was just an easy thing. If Leah and I were having a hard time, it was just, reach out to one of my friends or I thought was friends and we'd get together or something. And yeah, it was just an easy thing to do.
Okay, so you guys are not connecting, you're feeling not prioritized, you're feeling kind of lonely too. And so, Jake, you're going out getting your needs met elsewhere. And Leah, you're at home taking care of the kids and really not feeling like you're a team. You're just kind of in this alone raising your kids. So, how long did that go on before your marriage exploded? Walk us through how infidelity was discovered and what was that like for you?
Let's see. I think everything came out we just celebrated, I don't know, 2 months after year 7. So 7 years, it was just, I feel like things, I don't know. We had some good years, obviously. I feel like there were some
By
years
no means
where
it was all bad. There were fantastic memories that we had with the kids, with each other.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But even just being in those good years, there was always something missing. There was always this unspoken connection issue, transparency issue where I just felt like I didn't have all of him. Not even like the best or the worst, it's just there was always something that I was longing for in my marriage and longing for in my relationship with him that he just didn't know how to give to me, and nor could he, because there was so much that he needed to work on his own. So the first, I don't know, 4 years, I think, were probably the hardest, maybe 4 or 5 years. I think at that point we had 3 kids. And so, just constant transition. At one point, he was working 2 jobs, only home for, I don't know, 6 hours between 4 and 9 a.m. or something like that. And then I think I had started my business at that point. So our life just didn't mesh together. But at the same time, we loved each other and we had this great history and this was the right thing to do, this, stay together. But this is, we just didn't know how to work it out.
We just kind of, put our heads down and just
Trucked forward.
Yep. And then, yeah, I think at year 7.
Year 7, yeah. So how everything came out was there's kind of a few layers to it. About a year before, we had started meeting with a counselor who was like a marriage and family counselor who we knew and we loved. And I remember, or did I meet with her first? I think I met with her first. Yeah. Just because I knew something was wrong and I was looking to further deepen my faith At this point, I had been serving on the worship team. I was the youth pastor and, very involved in our church. And I could feel my relationship with God growing deeper and deeper. And I was ready for the next level. And so I was looking for some guidance. So I started meeting with her and it was great. She helped me through a lot of things. And eventually she just kind of helped me understand that my faith was my own. It was not reliant on what Jake is doing, because that was always a point of tension in our marriage. He grew up going to church. His family are, wonderful believers, but there was no roots buried very deep. So that was always a very big point of tension, where I grew up thinking that, the man was supposed to be the head of the household and leading, and I'm supposed to submit, but how can I submit to someone who's leading us astray? And so there was a big faith battle there internally for me. I just felt like I was going against everything I was taught. And so I kind of just let it go at some point of that's really when the work started to come, was when I said, you know what, God, I have been praying for this man to come to you and like actually come to you for, at that point, 6.5 years. And very clearly one night was, or, at some point was just, I just released and just said, you know what, I'm just going to work on my walk with you. And at some point he will follow. He will follow. And so there is a song, I can never remember the name of it, but some of the first lyrics go, I'd rather have the wilderness with you right by my side than wander in the valley all alone. And so that was kind of my trudging point of just like, all right, through the wilderness I go, as long as you're with me, I'm okay. And so at that point, I think the breaking point for me of just like, I kind of just not even released you, but just gave up on our marriage kind of being a good thing. My birthday and Mother's Day are usually either on the same day or right next to each other. And it was a beautiful sunny weekend, and all I wanted to do was spend time together or just, be a family. And he has always been really bad at giving gifts, or even
really?
just
Gift giver.
you're getting better. He's gotten a lot better.
Okay, good.
But just having that be a priority of just thinking of me. And so that year, nothing was done really for my birthday. And then the following day was Mother's Day. And I think I called you at some point and I was like, hey, like we got invited to go on a hike. I'd love to go or something. Let's make some plans. And you're like, oh, because I think we had just gotten in a kind of an argument. And you said, I didn't realize you wanted to do something. I'm out playing Frisbee. And I was like, all right, never mind. Again, it was on Mother's Day. So I remember just feeling so done. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. So I took my 3 kids on a hike and we had the best day. And I just felt so heartbroken that he wasn't able to be a part of it. Nor did he see that he should be a part of it. And so at that point, that was in May. And so from that whole summer, I remember just, going through those types of emotions where our family, our relationship was not a priority to him. Our kids, our family life was just kind of on the back burner. And so I did my thing with the kids and he did his own thing. And then one day at church, our church is connected to a church down in Portland. There was a marriage retreat coming up, and a dear friend of ours, she's our realtor, fantastic lady. We love her. She's so faith strong and we look up to her in so many ways. She came up to me. I had seen the retreat and I was like, oh, it's so expensive and flights and everything. We just can't go. But she came up to me one Sunday and just pulled me aside and was just like, Leah, I think I'm supposed to send you to this marriage retreat. She's like, all expenses paid. I'll pay for you to go. You buy the tickets and I'll just refund you for everything. And the people pleaser in me was just absolutely not. That's so much money. But there was just this small voice that was just like, okay, here we go. So she paid our whole way. It ended up working out because Jake's company is based right outside of Portland and he was already on a work trip. So I flew down, picked him up and, brought us to this marriage retreat. He didn't really know what he was getting into. I don't know if he would have gone had he known. It was quite intense and he hadn't really been a part of anything like that before. It was so filled with the Holy Spirit. And like from the first service, it is just all in. I've been to several of their retreats and it's always so wonderful. And so the first night, or maybe the second night, there was a deliverance night. And so we got prayed over, had some words spoken over us that were so just dead on. So they were praying and Jake just started, just going crazy with just anguish. it felt like, and I could see it happening in him. And I thought it was for one thing, but it ended up being for something else. And so we just were praying over, family histories and release for emotions. And you could tell he was wanting to be set free, but I didn't know quite from what.
Yeah. So that whole marriage intensive retreat encounter, whatever label you want to put on it, was just wild for not only for us, but for me. Like that was I never really experienced such a spiritual thing. My relationship with God up to that point was really within the box. Yeah, I grew up in a Bible church, which was totally fine. That's what my parents did, and my siblings, and everybody seemed to have a good time up to a certain point. And when they got to adults and everybody moved out of town or whatever. So it was just a very, very different experience going from a Bible church background to experiencing something like this, which was just
Wide open.
just wild. But yeah, we were going through the marriage retreat, and they had all these different like couple building exercises that we did all together. And then I forget which day it was. At the end of the day, we were all just kind of doing this. I think it was this prophetic word.
It was a deliverance.
Deliverance. There was a lot going on. But at the end of the night, I was just sitting on the couch, and Leah's sister and her husband and some other people were praying over me. And I'm just rocking back and forth on this couch. Like I'm sweating. I'm like 150 degrees. I'm on fire. It feels like my arms have lightning running through them. And it was just this absolutely wild experience of, I can feel the demonic, just this spirit of lust and this addiction to pornography being just like viciously ripped from my core. I remember so vividly the whole experience. It was just absolutely just violent, and I could feel it just getting torn up and all these physical and emotional feelings. And I just start screaming. It's like 11:30 at night. People are sleeping in rooms next to us. And it was absolutely wild. And I think the next day we were leaving.
After that whole crazy encounter, that was when I had found out about pornography. I had no idea.
Yeah, I think the only time I ever even mentioned pornography to Leah was years ago in Hawaii vacation.
We got a date night on a Hawaii vacation we went with my parents, and I think I saw something on your phone.
Yeah.
And there was very small conversation about it, and it ruined our whole date night, and it was awful. But that was the only time that it had ever come up.
And that was 6 years into our marriage.
Yeah, a year before that. So after that encounter, you had told me that you had struggled with it, and it was a very surface level. I have an issue with this. And so we kind of just left it at that for that night, because it was like 1 a.m. And at the retreat center, they don't have enough beds for couples to stay in the same room. So there's a men's and a women's dorm. And so I got back to my room, and I remember there was just this. First of all, I couldn't believe that I had no idea. He hid it so well. And so that was kind of scary. And then getting back to my dorm, I just remember this. I'll never forget it. This knife, it literally felt like a knife was stabbing me in the stomach and just twisting, because I knew something was coming. And because he had hidden his addiction so well, I was like, there's something else coming, and it's big. And so I just remember writing down in my journal just, what had happened, thankful for what had just happened, and, the 2 days that we had been together in that retreat and all the wonderful things that were coming. So we went to bed, woke up the next morning. That was the last day of the retreat. And then we got back into the car. We were getting ready to leave, and we were just both so happy. I think that at that point we had never felt closer. This, big giant faith bubble that we had both been trying to live in together was, we felt like we were in the same space, and we were so excited. And I remember him looking at me and saying, like, this is what you felt like coming home from these retreats all the time. And I was not nearly as excited as I should have been for you. And so he was like, I'm so sorry for that. And then I looked at him and I was like, okay, there's something else that you need to tell me, isn't there? And he looked at me and said, yeah, there is, but I don't want to tell you right now. And I was like, no. We just got off this crazy Holy Spirit high. We've never been better. I was like, you need to tell me right now. And so before we pulled out, I think it was as we were pulling out of the driveway, I don't even think you said it. I think I asked, I asked, there's someone else, isn't there? And he nodded. And then I think we were, driving around the windy roads, and I think you had said something along the lines of, yeah, there's more than one. And that alone shocked me. And so I said, how many? And, he held up, what, 5, I think. And then we had a lovely long 3-hour drive back to Seattle, where it was quiet. But what's funny is he slept. He passed out for majority of the drive. And I remember looking at him and feeling, one, how the heck can you be sleeping right now? How dare you be sleeping right now? But then I remember thinking about it. I was like, he just went through so much. He just had like so much delivered. That's exhausting. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to talk to you right now anyway. So fall asleep. Sure. I think we ended up stopping at a restaurant and then having a conversation in the parking lot. I think I just looked at him. It was just like, I don't want to get a divorce. I don't want to. That is not in the cards, even though this is a situation that I think, a couple years earlier, you had mentioned something about, what would it take, if is there anything that would cause us to divorce? And I think I said,
Yeah.
I said, if you were to ever cheat on me, and that kind of sealed his lips,
I was like, well, I'm never gonna
bring
mention
that up.
anything about that ever.
So, and I had thought back to that conversation when on that drive of, I don't want to get a divorce. We have 3 kids. I would have to, I wouldn't be able to homeschool them anymore. All these, life scenarios are flashing through my head on this drive. And so in that moment, I decided, you know what, we'll work through it as best we can and see what the outcome is.
Wow, that's an incredible story, you guys. And so painful, Leah, for you to find that out, especially on the heels of such a spiritual experience that you had at retreat, to have this information just dumped on you and then having to sit with it on that trip home. I'm sure some of the pieces fell into place for you, though, realizing, oh, this is what was missing. This is what was wrong in the marriage. I knew something was, I just didn't know what it was, right? So here you are driving home. So what happened next? I mean, this is a terrible reality that has just reared its ugly head. And so what did you guys do when you got home?
We called my sister and brother-in-law, and it was either that night or the next night that they came over, I think at 11 o'clock at night, and just sat on the couch with us, because at that point, there's just so many questions. And the biggest one is, what do we do now? Where do we go? Who do we talk to? Because it's such a personal, intimate, embarrassing, part of you and your life and your story that is not to share with everyone. My brother-in-law is the associate pastor at our church, and we're very close with them. And so we called them, and they came over and sat on our couch and cried with us, and, held us and kind of just gave us some next steps of what they think they could do. Cause they have, not something along these lines, but they have trauma in their story as well. And so they kind of told us some of the things that helped them. And so thankfully we had in the church, in the retreat that we had went to, that was a big part of it too, is some of the people and the leaders in their church have walked through this as well. And so they have a program called Cross the Island, which is helping men get out of pornography addictions. And so conveniently, 2 weeks later, I think a course was starting. And so we invested in that right away. And it was good. I think the biggest takeaway I got from that was that man's wife, her name's Heather. The biggest thing she kept saying is, Jake is not the sin and sin is not Jake, or something like that. It's, it's an unwanted sexual behavior. So it did help me shape a reality around him of, he doesn't want this. This is an icky thing that he has been trying to get rid of for years and just hasn't been successful. And so I appreciated that there was an empathy built around it. Not, a sob story. Obviously, he made choices and has to pay the consequence for those. But it helped with grace and just an overflowing of love for the man that he is, not having to, tiptoe around the sin. And then there was another couple in our church that we had known had walked through this. So we ended up calling them and going to their house, and they gave us so many books and resources. And she gave me some podcasts to listen to. And then eventually through those podcasts, I found you guys. So I can't even remember. It was Discovery was in August. And I think I had started talking to you maybe in September or something like that. And then I found your podcast and was just holding on for dear life. And so I think I binge watched every single episode within, however many you had at that point, because I think you had maybe a year in or something. And then a few months after I started listening to you guys, then you announced that you were doing coaching. And so I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. This timeline is perfect.
So, Jake, tell us a little bit more about what was going on with you during this same time period.
I know I had a lot of uncertainty. Like, are you going to change your mind about divorce? Going from living two lives, living a double life, and just focusing on us. For me, it was this crazy high. I felt amazing. I was free from this addiction. I felt fantastic. All this darkness in my life is out in the open. I remember feeling incredible and just looking at Leah and just absolutely crushed. I remember that was a very difficult time to walk through.
So you got some early help, which is really good. Where are you two now on your journey together? You've been on this road of recovery. You've done so much hard work. So what does it look like? Are you still in the messy middle? Are there still highs and lows? Are you kind of leveled out? What does it look like for you guys right now?
I think there are definitely the highs and lows. Absolutely. But I think we're pretty leveled out on the highest point we've ever been in our marriage.
It just keeps getting better.
Yeah, exactly. Like you two were saying, is just, after disclosure and everything, your marriage is the best it's ever been. And that's absolutely true for us. Our marriage is stronger than it's ever been. Our walk with God individually and in our marriage is the greatest it's ever been. Our relationship with our kids is the greatest it's ever been. It's been, it's fantastic. It gets hard, but it's fantastic.
And you have another baby, right? You got pregnant during recovery, because I remember you guys were separated for a little while with a therapeutic separation.
Yep. That was, I think, 8 months after discovery. The first 3 months were a big high of just nothing is separating us anymore. The secret's out. We're so glad to be together and on the same page. But there was a lot of personality traits that needed adjusted. There was a lot of, new routines, new communications, learning communication, learning feelings, and basically
we had the feelings
we had
to figure out
the whole feelings wheel up on the fridge every day, and going through learning new terms and phrases and being just stupidly open, trying our best to swing as far in the other direction as possible to just, slowly tiptoe to a normal spot. I was able to make the whole boundaries list, and he did his best to be respectful of it. And while, praise God, he has not touched, done anything with pornography since that retreat night. And so 3 years almost free from that. But the personality and just characteristic behaviors needed adjusted. And so a lot of that had to do with boundaries for me to have set for him. And so about month 5 or 6, there was things that just were not a priority as they should have been. And so I, made a very, very hard decision at 6 months pregnant that you needed to leave the house. And at that point, there's a lot that goes into it, but at that point was, I think, when you started actually getting serious about, okay, you don't want to lose us. And so you took it more seriously, I think, in terms of changing your behavior.
Yeah, and reaching out and reading books, podcasts,
meeting with Johnny, meeting with counselors, meeting with, reading all the books, listening to all the things, and actually gaining an understanding and an interest in understanding.
I think a lot of it in that season was me giving up the whole I can do it myself attitude. It was a lot of diving into. I'm not going to do this by myself, and that's okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to get help from outside, and I know that was a big thing that I was going through during that season, but.
That lasted about a month. And then we had a timeline because the baby was coming. So I didn't think it was very fair that he got to be out on his own while I'm pregnant and dealing with 3 kids. So I think we handled it pretty well. We kept the kids here, and him and I just kind of transferred in and out. But, I was happy with his heart change to an extent. But, I let him back home a little earlier than I think I wanted to, but I just needed the help. But he was very, very respectful in re-entering our world, which was nice. And I was very thankful. And so I had a whole list of things that he needed to keep up with, keep going. And then after we had Annie, our baby, she just, I don't know, it feels weird to hold her up like such a trophy child, but she healed us so much. And that's a dangerous situation. I feel like we definitely were risky in that. where that could go one of two ways, and thankfully, and I think because of a lot of prayer and faithfulness, that she was just the healing point for our family. I can't talk about it without tearing up about her. So it just brought us all together, and we were all so in love. And then, through that, fell more in love with each other and our family and just where we were.
Thank you so much for sharing that part of your journey. It does take a lot of hard work to get to where the two of you are now. And so each of you, I want to ask this question of, what would you say is the biggest thing that God is teaching each of you through all of this? You kind of take the whole picture from the time you met to dating, to getting married, the relationship not working out, then finding that there's a dark shadow in the background where there's this pornography addiction and sexual relationships with women outside of the marriage. The discovery happens and your world blows up. It's flipped upside down. And now you're working really hard to put it back together. I believe you would continue to be moving forward if you didn't think God was teaching you something in this or showing you something bigger. So, looking at the whole picture, what do you feel that God has been teaching you about his faithfulness?
I think for me, it has been how important family is in the marriages to God. That's been just a wild shift in my perception and my values, that Leah, God, and the kids and our family and our marriage is so valuable to God. And that's probably been the biggest takeaway for me during our entire relationship, all the way back to when we first met and my journey with God, my relationship with God. But bringing that to the surface, how much God values marriage and the family, has just been incredible. That's been an absolutely wild shift in perception for me.
Jake, thank you so much. And Leah, how about you? What is God showing you through all of this?
Yeah, the just consistent theme of my life is just, even if not, he's still good. Where, there's been so many things in my life where it has not gone, according to plan, or ended up how I thought it would, or things just don't make sense. But even if they don't, or if my plan goes astray, I don't question his goodness. I don't question his ability to turn these terrible situations around. And then it's my job to turn it around also and share it, so that way other people can come to know him and know his goodness, because he really just in so many ways has just held me in, like a little, bird in his hand or something is kind of how I picture it, of just, he just carries us. He carries me, and always has and always will. And he's just so caring. He's just so loving. He's just so faithful and just good. So that's been a quote that I've had in a lot, is, if not, he is still good. It's, no matter what.
You talk about the faithfulness of God in all of that, and he definitely is faithful, and he has good plans for both of you. And we are so excited that you have told this story, because I know that people are going to resonate with that. They're going to see themselves in your story, and they're going to understand that whatever you've gone through, that they're going through, God's bigger than that, and he can bring them through it as well. It's been such a great experience to listen to you guys go from, the rockiness of the beginning to having the best marriage you've ever had. And you're so young. Both of you have so much life ahead of you. And we're so grateful that you figured this out early on, and that you have this benefit of all the years that God has ordained for you to be together in a marriage that is strong and valued, and that you can be a picture to those around you of what God can do to redeem what Satan tried to destroy. And so, just to wrap it up, I want to ask you, what is just one thing that you can tell our audience? What do you want to pass on to other couples who are in the fire right now? What would be your biggest piece of advice that you could give them?
I think, being the betrayed spouse, there was a lot that went into our own separate healing journeys apart from each other, and then coming together. There was a lot of healing that Jake had to do on his own. There was a lot of healing that I had to do on my own, in so many different areas. But one of them, I think, was understanding my worth as a daughter of Christ, as a mom, as a wife. There was so much that I needed to understand about myself before I could even enter the realm of healing our marriage. So there was a lot of things that I took and did for me, because I thought I needed it. There's a lot of different things. I could talk for hours about all this, but that your worth is important. Your thoughts and feelings are important. Feelings are going to be fleeting, and some of them are going to be driven by, unrealistic expectations or unrealistic things, but that doesn't mean they're not valid. So I don't know. That was something that kind of helped me walk through it of just, you know what? No, I matter. And my sanity, especially as a mom of 4 young kids at that point, was important. So I needed to heal a part of myself before I could even touch the marriage, but, not letting it go at the same time.
Yes, that's right. Thank you so much, Leah. And Jake, what would you say to the men who are listening?
I have so many different suggestions running through my mind. One that's sticking with me right now is, personally, I believe God has given women that follow him and have a true relationship with him. I think that God gives these women and these wives supernatural, like spidey senses, And so, man, I think probably a good recommendation is, if your wife is truly rooted in God and has a wonderful relationship with God and can be trusted. If your wife has a supernatural hunch on something, I think you got to check yourself. I think you need to stop that knee-jerk reaction to, no, I didn't do that, or no, I didn't think that, or anything. You got to take a breath, pause, and really give yourself a scan and see if there's any validation, if there's any truth to what's kicking off her spidey senses.
Right. We have that intuition that God gives us, right? And so I love to hear that you are encouraging men, Jake, to listen to that and not get defensive and justify and blame shift and all of that.
Absolutely.
There's something that's coming from the Lord. And so pay attention.
Yes.
That's good advice.
Well, if we believe our wives to be spirit-filled, then we have to understand on some level that the Holy Spirit is speaking to them about us. And so, Jake, thank you so much for bringing that highlight out. We're so grateful for the two of you. Thank you both, Jake and Leah, so much for coming and telling your story on our show. You are helping Emily and I fulfill this greater calling and mission that we have to let people know that they're not alone and that there truly is hope. So thank you for sharing that hope with our listeners today. We're grateful to God for what he's doing, and we're grateful that you chose to share your story with us.
Thank you for having us. Yes, so fun.
Time.
Something new.
Awesome. So much fun.
Thank you, Father, for how you are working in the life of today's storytellers. May you receive their story as an offering of praise and bless them as they continue on their journey to freedom and healing.
Amen. Please join us next week for another story of hope.
So until next time,
Marriage is redeemed.
Hearts Renewed on Beyond Broken Vows podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. And before you go, if this podcast encouraged you and you're feeling some hope for today, please share this show with someone else you know who's going through a similar situation and needs to know they're not alone. One of the best ways you can help us reach more people is to leave us a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on upcoming episodes. And as always, we would love to hear from you with questions and comments. Just email us at support@beyondbrokenvows.com. As you walk out this journey one day at a time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.